We are dealing with an epidemic of weak-willed, inconsistent, unreliable, unpredictable, useless boys in men's bodies. And guess what? As women, as feminines, we have been accepting and normalizing that standard of masculine embodiment. So if we want men to change, if we want men to give us more, we have to stop accepting less. We have to be the ones to lead the way in this change by setting a new standard. Yeah, it's going to be one of those videos. Hello and welcome to Temple of Akasha, the home of embodied spirituality with me, Natasha. So before I jump into this juicy video today, I want to just make a few things really clear. I am speaking today about what I would consider to be the vast majority of the male population on the planet at this particular moment. I am not speaking about every single man, nor am I speaking about every single woman. Not every woman is on a path of empowerment and awakening. There are many women that are disempowered and operating from shadow and egoic consciousness and are equally as manipulative and disempowered as men. But for the sake of today's video, I'm speaking about disempowered men who are playing out patriarchal programming to try and have power over women in a number of ways, and I'm speaking to the population of women who are ready to change this, who are ready to start attracting better quality men into their lives. These are the women that are ready for sacred union. I am on the path of devotion. My path is the path of bhakti, devotion. I am here as a divine feminine to dive into the depths of what it means to be in a sacred and divine container with a man. Now, this is not going to be everyone's path. So if you're watching this video and you are not wanting to attract in a sacred divine union, or you are not interested in attracting a high standard of man, this video is not going to be for you. These are the people I'm speaking to. There are many exceptions outside of this. I'm not blaming and shaming all men. I'm calling out a specific, but I would say quite significant population of men on the planet that are disempowered, wounded, and operating from that place in their interactions with women. Okay, now we've got that out of the way, let's crack on. Ladies, it's time to stop accepting and pretending that breadcrumbs are a full 3-course meal. It's time to stop settling for scraps and thinking that the scraps are like a sumptuous banquet, okay? When we are in relationship or connection with a man and they are giving the bare minimum, whether that's emotionally, physically, psychologically, or all three of those, it's time to move on. And what has happened, unfortunately, is that women have got so used to such a poor standard of relating to men that they are willing to accept scraps and breadcrumbs and pretend in delusion that they are receiving an entire banquet and buffet, when in reality they're being treated like paupers. We have forgotten, because of the patriarchy, because of how much as women we have been demeaned, diminished, shamed, belittled, raped, pillaged, taken from, used, abused. We have forgotten how fucking divine and powerful we are as women. We have forgotten that we are embodiments of the goddess in human form, that we have wombs that create life, that we are portals of creation, that our light is magnetic. And the reason that men want to take from us, the reason that they pillage and rape and penetrate without consent, is because they're so desperate for what we have. They are so hungry for what we have, but they are too weak to actually source it themselves or to ask for it from a place of reverence for the feminine and recognizing the worth and divinity of the feminine. We have forgotten who we are, and it's time to start remembering now, because for as long as we forget how fucking worthy, divine, beautiful, and magnetic we are as beings, we are going to continue to attract men that treat us as unworthy, as undervalued beings, right? We're going to continue to attract that which we believe we are. And I've had an interaction recently which really has it's not a new learning for me, it's confirmation of a message the universe has been giving me all year. That because of my childhood, and maybe because of yours too, at a subconscious level, I've got used to accepting really low standards in my interactions with men. My dad was emotionally and psychologically volatile, abusive, manipulative, unpredictable, paranoid schizophrenic, emotionally unavailable, often physically unavailable. That chaos, that uncertainty, that level of wounding was my normal as a child. That was what I grew up with as the masculine role model in my life. And so at a subconscious level, that is still the place that my system is operating from and attracting from when it comes to who I'm calling into my reality. And so a recent interaction with another disempowered man who very much mirrored my dad actually illuminated for me that there is still some of that wounding active in me that is seeking chaos, that is seeking uncertainty because that's what's known. But it also illuminated for me how far I've come on my journey of being an empowered woman and how I will no longer accept that standard anymore. Because before, when these weak-willed, wishy-washy men came into my reality and I really fell for them, I would just bow at their feet and put them on a pedestal, as I did with my twin. And I would just be so grateful for any scraps I could get, any time they'd make for me. Oh, they're amazing, they've managed to fit me into their reality. Oh, they're amazing, they thought of me and sent me a message after 3 days. Now, with the state of consciousness I'm in and the state of empowerment that I'm able to anchor and embody, I'm looking at this kind of man, this disempowered, weak-willed kind of man who is not in touch with his own personal power, and because he fears these weak-willed, disempowered men fear empowered women. They don't celebrate empowered women; they fear them. So when they come into contact with an empowered woman, the only thing they can do is think about how they can retain and gain power again, rather than celebrating how empowered you are. And so what happened with me recently was I came into contact with this disempowered male who treated me like complete garbage. And what I saw really clearly was the fact that that was an old karmic cycle. That was the fact that that was a pattern I used to play out, and I'm no longer willing to perpetuate it, and I'm no longer willing to play into it anymore. So I now have the awareness to witness that pattern playing out and to say, yeah, no, that doesn't work for me anymore, because I finally see my worth and value. And this is really what this message comes down to. If you do not see your worth, your value, and your divinity, how on earth do you expect a man to? What happens in relationships is that as women, when we're disconnected from our feminine power and divinity, we are waiting for and seeking that validation and that affirmation from the men that we bring into our lives. We are needing and relying on their validation that we are worthy, valuable, and divine in the way that they speak to us, in the way that they interact with us. But because we don't believe it and because we're not embodied in it, they do not mirror that back to us. And so during this interaction with this man recently, he acted in a way that crossed a boundary for me. He'd finally, it was the straw that broke the camel's back after just him being a useless man, really. And I ejected him from my reality. And although, as I mentioned in my previous video, it's been a very painful process, I would not do a single thing differently, because I stood for myself and I stood for the new standards that I am bringing into my reality. And that standard that I am now starting to impose for myself and for any men that come into my life is that I don't settle for scraps anymore. It is not enough for a man to say that he is a provider, that he is consistent, that he honors the feminine. Don't believe his words. Be very discerning and be very perceptive with regards to what he's actually doing and what he's embodied in. Anyone can talk the talk. Is the man that you're interacting with walking the walk? Is he actually consistent in how he interacts with you? Is he actually treating you with respect, with reverence? Does he actually see your light and honor and celebrate it? Or is he intimidated by it? Is he disempowered by it? It's so easy for us because of the programming we've been exposed to via the patriarchy and the programming that men have been exposed to via the patriarchy to believe that we need to settle for these low standards in relationship with men, because that's what we've historically been exposed to. Ridiculously poor standards in relationship to men. They've had power over us. They have been the authority, they've been in a place of hierarchy in relationship with women. That is the historical standard. That's just fact. During this age of Aquarius, where all these karmic cycles are being undone, unraveled, balanced, cleared, and we are coming into states of sovereignty and empowerment, these cycles are not going to be able to continue. And so what has to happen is each individual on the planet has to take responsibility for themselves now. And what is at the heart of this disempowered cycle we seem to find ourselves in, where there are these weak men seeking out the light and power of women and taking, harvesting that light and then just acting like total idiots, and women, giving it freely to men, is quite simply that women are not anchored in their inherent worth and value, and men are playing out and perpetuating a lot of mother wounding. So what's happening is we've got these man children running around, these boys in men's bodies who are desperate for mummy, who are holding deep wounding when it comes to the mother, not just their birth mother, but their relationship with the divine mother. And instead of actually addressing this core wounding, what they're doing is they're seeking out women in their external reality that they think are going to give them what they need. The reality is that no woman on the planet can give them what they need, because they need to self-source. They need to reconnect with their own feminine energy. They need to connect with their own feminine hearts and resolve the wounding they hold around the mother, the divine mother, and their birth mother. Resolve that anger that they hold towards the mother, that shame they hold around the mother. They need to undo the patriarchal programming which has had them at odds with the mother, before they can come into divine union with a woman, before that they can actually witness a woman in her divinity and celebrate it instead of trying to demean it or belittle it or have power over it. And as women, what tends to happen is, because we tend to be more empathic, more emotionally attuned, naturally more in our caregiver nurturing energy, is that subconsciously we try and mother these men, these disempowered man children. We try and mother them, and they're seeking a mother. So you see how this codependent dynamic plays out, right? Where we're just dancing in wounding and codependency and imbalance. The way that we heal this is that as women, we set a new standard. We have to be the leaders of the revolution now. And that looks like us no longer playing into and feeding that dynamic. The kindest thing we can do as women now is to draw our energy back to us, give all that nourishment to ourselves, look after the self first, nourish, value, and celebrate ourselves first, and set healthy, loving boundaries accordingly, according to the standard that we embody as high-value women. When we know our worth and value, we don't settle for low standards. When we really know that we are fucking goddesses incarnated, we don't settle for scraps. We don't settle for breadcrumbs. We're not even interested or intrigued by that shit. So what needs to happen in this evolutionary shift in relating is that women need to draw their energy back and stop feeding into that disempowered dynamic altogether, and lovingly say, I cannot be what you need because you're seeking mummy, you're seeking a mother, and you're projecting that onto me. You need to recognize that the energy you're seeking is within you. That feminine, soft energy is within you. It is you as well, because they are expressions of the goddess just as we are. And they need to heal that core wounding around the mother energy, around feminine energy. They can do that in relationship, but they cannot be seeking out a feminine externally and ignoring the inner work and integration work that needs to happen. So as women, the kindest thing we can do is, if you come into contact with a man that's very deeply disempowered, projecting his mother wounding onto you, the kindest thing you can do is A, come back into self-worth and value, B, set a loving boundary, make it very clear that you're not mother and that you will not settle for playing into codependent dynamics where you become his mother. And C, if he continues to perpetuate, you know, man-child ways of being, walk away. That is no longer the dynamic as a divine being that you need to accept or settle for. Walk away and trust that when you're embodied in your divine when you're embodying your divine frequency of who you truly are, you will not need to settle for scraps. You will attract that which you are matched for. So I was speaking to a friend last night, and she's also going through this with the men in her reality, these man children that are running around deeply terrified, but also deeply hungry for feminine energy, right? It's like this paradox. The men desperately seek connection with women, but they also desperately fear it. And unfortunately, as women, it'd be so easy to project all of this kind of wounding, all of this hurt that's played out between men and women over millennia, all onto men, and say that it's the patriarchy, it's their fault, they're useless. But we've played into it. We've normalized it. We've accepted it. When a man, you know, ghosts you or doesn't text you back for 3 days and then drops you like, "Hi, how are you?" and maybe you're in a relationship or maybe you've been dating, we've historically jumped at that, you know? We've jumped at men who carve out a little bit of time for us in their busy schedules. If you are truly anchored in your divinity, if you are truly anchored in your queen energy, you will only accept a man that sees your divinity and is willing to invest in that, is willing to commit to that, is not interested in having a million different options on the table. If he truly values you, he will make it known to you, and he will take the action that is required to come to you. You do not need to go to him, because the feminine is inherently magnetic. As women, we are naturally magnetic when we're in our empowered energy. We are the ones that naturally draw in what we need. We actually don't have to go to men at all when we're in that energy. I've witnessed it in my own life. It's like the men find you. What you need to do, and I'll make a separate video about this, but what you need to do and be discerning about is, yes, you're going to naturally attract and draw in people into your reality. You need to be discerning about, are they coming from a place of reverence, honoring, respect, or are they trying to feast, feed, take, pillage, harvest what they want from you and what they feel they lack within themselves? That is what you need to be discerning about. And this is going to become more rampant as this evolutionary process continues, because the masculine consciousness is going through a revolutionary shift right now, an initiation from this very disempowered energy. The masculine consciousness is being asked to upgrade now, and the feminine consciousness is going through the same. And so naturally, as we anchor and embody more light and more empowerment, our light is going to attract many beings. We have to be discerning about what energy those beings are coming from. Are they here to be co-creators of the new earth? Are they here and interacting with you from a place of love, from a place of empowerment, from a place of celebration? Or at some level, are they trying to take from you? Are they trying to get something from you? A disempowered masculine consciousness will try to penetrate your aura, penetrate your field, maybe even penetrate your physical being, and take from you when you're not ready, because it serves them, not because it serves you. So in all of this, women, in all of this, divine femmes, you have to be anchored in your needs, your worth, your value first. That is how you stop settling for scraps. That is how you start discerning and being really clear on the fact that anything less than a fucking banquet is not a banquet. Anything less than an empowered man is not an empowered man. The last thing I want to end on is potential. particularly as empaths, it's really easy to see a person's potential. We see the soul, right? Particularly if you're psychic, you're able to, see energy, feel energy, know energy. You'll be able to sense into a person's soul potential really, really easily, like I can. It's one of my gifts. But potential is not what has actually been actualized. Be very aware of that. What is a person showing up with in your reality? Is it actually, are they actually showing up in an empowered and embodied state of, anchored, consistent, predictable, in a way of being truly kind of stable, masculine energy? Are they in their provider energy and doing it in their lives? Or do they hold that potential, but is their embodiment the opposite? Right? What they're saying and what they're doing are two very different things. What their potential is and what they're doing are two very different things. Do not fall for potential, because potential may never be actualized. Be very clear about what the reality is in front of you. And if you are seeing a man with potential in front of you but is not actualized in that potential, lovingly set a boundary and carry on walking. If he sees your worth and value, if he sees that you, for the queen that you are, he will do everything in his power and everything he needs to do to embody that potential, to actualize that potential so that he's worthy of you. Because access to you is a privilege. Access to you needs to be earned. What we've been doing as women is giving away access to ourselves. And again, I'm going to make an entirely separate video on this. We've been giving away access to ourselves. Like a fucking all-you-can-eat buffet for five quid. And then expecting men to treat us as high-value women. We have been perpetuating this standard. We have been normalizing it. Time to change that now. It's time to set a new precedent. It's time to set a new standard. It starts with us. So, I hope this was helpful. I hope this was empowering for you. Listen to it as often as you need to be reminded that you are a queen. You're an embodiment of the goddess. And you are deserving of so much more than you have been settling for. But if you want to attract more, you have to know you are worthy of more. You have to set a standard for yourself and others accordingly. And you have to live, breathe, and move from that space. You're going to attract many people into your life that will be attracted to your light. It is up to you to decide whether or not they are worthy of having access to that light or not. I love you. I hope this was helpful. As always, feel free to like, subscribe, and share. It really helps my channel get to the right people. And I'll be connecting with you again super soon.